we have another special guest here. Her name is Nancy, and she is from Salem Health. And so, today we are holding community conversations that just revolve around topics associated with homelessness, addiction, and everything in between. And so we believed that it was important to have a conversation just in general about fentanyl, which affects many people from many different people groups within our community and beyond. And so, Nancy, would you like to introduce us to your title?
Sure.
And start us off with that.
Yeah. I'm Nancy B. I am a nurse. That has been my lifelong career and love. I have the best job in the world as a nurse. And I've been a nurse for 24 years. And over 20 of that was spent in emergency medicine and trauma medicine, so that's definitely my specialty. I've worked at Salem Health for 17 years, and up until 6 months ago, all of those years have been in the emergency department. And now I have the honor of working inside as a director of critical care. Okay. So still very close to the emergency room, but just a little different focus for me right now.
Yeah.
And when I was in the emergency room and we noticed something was changing in our community, that is when my interest was piqued and found what was happening with the fentanyl crisis and started doing research and now have somehow collected this vast amount of knowledge that I love sharing because it's very sad and very important, I think, that we talk about it so that way we can gain some control over what's happening.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's just start out with some of the basics, kind of build a framework here that we can build on.
Yeah.
Very generally speaking, what is fentanyl?
Right. Okay. So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. So a synthetic medication for pain. Opioid would be a medication for pain. And synthetic means it's 100% made in the lab. So no part of this drug is harvested from any crop, like cacao for the cocaine or different plants for other drugs. This is 100% chemical drug made in a lab, both legally in pharmacies and illegally in illicit pharmacies and illicit warehouses where they make illegal fentanyl.
Okay. And obviously we serve our unsheltered community, but as we will emphasize today, fentanyl affects everyone. So this community and beyond. But can you just unpack that a little bit? When we say that fentanyl affects many people, who is it affecting?
Yeah. Thank you for calling that out. This drug does not solely affect one demographic or not. It is not only in the homeless, unsheltered community. It is absolutely in every community. And we will get this wrong, the conversation wrong, if we think, oh, that's happening over there. It is happening in neighborhoods with $1 million homes, and it's happening in neighborhoods with no homes at all. In the emergency department at Salem Health, what I can share with you is that up until last year, the majority of the patients that would come in related to an overdose were from the ages of 15 to 24. They were our highest demographic. However, last year, unfortunately, while that age demographic still remains high, the demographic of 25 to 34 is now the highest demographic we see. Yet, the demographic of 35 to 44 increased 60%. So everybody's climbing. This is affecting everybody. And thank you for calling out that it is not just in one area. We all need to be aware that this drug is out there, very accessible, very cheap, and very, very, very dangerous.
So how is it that it is so accessible?
Well, my best guess from the research I've done, although I've clearly never spoken to the cartel myself.
Yeah, sure.
in business, if you have a product, you're going to look to how can I make that product better and cheaper and last longer, right? So that's what they've done by adding fentanyl to meth, cocaine, marijuana. Is the goal of the cartel was to have to use less meth, make the meth last longer in their supply chain, if you will, by cutting it, we called, with fentanyl, which then makes it more potent. The problem is the cartel and illegal fentanyl labs, they don't worry about how much fentanyl is in each dose gram of meth. That's not their concern. We're a legal pharmacy company, a lab that's making medications that we would use in the hospital and that is governed by the Federal Drug Administration. That is actually the number one thing you have to perform, is it's called uniformity. So for instance, if you were to buy Tylenol, you have to guarantee that every Tylenol pill has 350 milligrams of acetaminophen. But of course, the drug cartel does not have to do that, which is why you can have one pill that could have potentially no fentanyl in it, very unlikely nowadays on the street, or you can have another pill that has enough to kill 3 of us. And that is why it is so dangerous, and we say that one pill can kill, is because you don't know what you're getting. And the reality is, still from what we hear from patients that come in who've overdosed, when we tell them you have fentanyl in your system, they say, no, I bought meth. I was not intending to buy fentanyl. But that's not what the market is out there, is they use it as a way to get more. You'll come back because you think it's a better drug, or it was a better meth, if you will, but then, or Xanax, or choose your illegal purchase. But yet what was really in it was the fentanyl.
Okay.
I never really visualized what you're talking about until I saw the picture of the pencil.
Yeah.
And that's pretty accurate.
It's very accurate. It is a teeny tiny amount. It's 2 milligrams. It's a tiny, tiny amount that's considered lethal. You have to imagine in my world, in my acute care hospital setting, when we give fentanyl that's made in a pharmaceutical lab, very pure, there's not a lot of byproducts to it, we dose it in micrograms. We give teeny tiny amounts. And so, again, that's not what's happening out in our community.
Sure. So how frequent, I mean, maybe you know the exact number, maybe this is, your best estimate, but how frequently in the emergency department, for example, are you seeing people come in there with a fentanyl overdose, whether they know it or they don't?
I would say daily, easily daily. Now, the ones that are easier to track in our data is if they come in for an overdose. That I can easily pull from our data set. But there's also people who come in who are just sick. Mm-hmm. They could have an infection or just not be feeling well. And maybe they're recreationally using marijuana. And for some reason, we would do a drug screen to see if that maybe is the problem. Maybe we thought they have too much of a different drug in their system, as the drug screen test has a lot of drugs we test for in it. And we'll find the fentanyl then too. And so daily, that would happen every day in our emergency department here at Salem.
Okay. What would be, like, if there was 1, 2, 3 things, whatever it may be, that you want the public to know, what would that be? Do you have a cautionary tale? Are there things you want to share specifically to parents? What comes to mind?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, first of all, just that this is not a unsheltered problem, that you're so spot on that this is everywhere. So we all need to be aware and be thoughtful around the reality that this is on our streets and in our neighborhoods. I would share it to people who are struggling with addiction that they are important, they are loved. We want to see them if they are having an acute problem. There's help for them out there. There's inpatient help. There's outpatient help. Bridgeway, outpatient, Ideal Options, inpatient, Pacific Ridge. There's places for them to go. It's very, 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 very hard to come off of these drugs. I know that. We know that in the emergency department. If you have an overdose, we're here for you. And if you have an overdose, it is very common from the chemicals that the cartel uses. And I say that because it's the fentanyl on the street, even though it's the same name as the fentanyl we give in the hospital, they're very different drugs. And the fentanyl on the street I describe as dirty. And so what that means is that when you ingest that drug, it sits in the receptors, the pain receptors of your body. Pretend it's sticky because it's dirty because of the byproducts in it, which means that often one dose of Narcan won't work. You need to give more than one dose.
Okay.
So if you see somebody that you're concerned about that's having an overdose and you give them a dose of Narcan and nothing happens, give another dose of Narcan.
Okay.
And remember CPR. So while you're waiting for 911, CPR can be very, very effective to keep the heart pumping, keep the patient with some breath in their lungs while you get the Narcan on board. Specifically around the children, the one thing I talk to parents about is vaping is absolutely a gateway into a bad path. So if you have a child that's vaping and you're concerned, you should be concerned. Drug dealers will deal vapes. Like they start there as a way to get kids involved into drugs. And so I'm a parent. I have 2 high schoolers, and I have dropped them off and seen those happening at the vapes, selling happening as I've dropped them off at their high school. So please be bold in your parenting and don't let vaping be okay. It often then moves to another drug and then can lead to more drugs. And I encourage parents to check your kids' phones, check their rooms, check their backpacks. If you see even over-the-counter medications like Benadryl or Imodium, all of those are signs that something is going on, and ask questions and lean in really hard and really early. Lock up medications. If you use recreational marijuana, please lock it up. We have, I think the youngest I've seen is 2 in the emergency department who's gotten into a parent or a grandparent's recreational marijuana gummies or brownies, and they're very, very sick. So please don't leave drugs out. Drugs being all drugs, prescription, non-prescription, legal, non-legal, don't leave anything out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So awareness is key.
Yeah.
That's why you're here today. And we appreciate that. And this may have kind of been answered already, but is there anything, how can people get involved with the awareness piece, or what else is there that folks could do to help this?
Well, the Salem Health has is supporting a cause, the free fentanyl cause. And so you can definitely go online and join that and get, if you're like a business owner, get information about recognizing fentanyl, treating it, being a steward of talking about it. I think if I were talking to the population that's maybe struggling, and I mean homeless and not homeless, I'm talking about the kids that we see that come in who have died from an overdose of fentanyl. They don't buy fentanyl. They had a rough day and they got anxious, and their buddy said, "Hey, take this little Xanax pill. It makes me feel great." They weren't trying to kill themselves. Yeah. So this is out there everywhere, and we've got to tell our kids, no pill that you don't buy from a pharmacy in a locked bottle is safe, and you want to be very careful. If not, please don't use, because it's just so prevalent. Every story is, I didn't know I was buying fentanyl. I was not intending to use that drug. And so a lot of people most people still in our area are unaware. There are some people who are seeking it, unfortunately, but most of the population we see are unaware. So you have to be aware and talk about it.
And that's what we're hoping to start here.
Yeah.
We are seeing it at our mission.
Yeah.
It makes a difference in the folks we serve in their ultimate recovery.
Right.
If they're dealing with a drug addiction of any kind.
Sure.
Let alone overdosing on fentanyl.
Yeah.
So this is very important to Union Gospel Mission, to our community, clearly to Salem Health.
Yes.
And we appreciate that very much. Elaine, I don't know what else we have here. So.
Yeah, I guess as we close the conversation, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I'm just so grateful for you all. As the emergency room, we work very closely with the Union Gospel Mission, and you are 24/7 open for our patients that need a warm place to go, as a resource to our community. And I just want you to know that we all need to specialize in what we do and then work together like we do. Yes. Because Union Gospel Mission can't be the acute care hospital, and the acute care hospital can't be Union Gospel Mission. I love that we have our own specialties, and yet then we can partner together. And so please know that as an unofficial spokesperson of Salem Health, but your current person here today, we're extremely grateful for you all, and I'm happy to be a part of this today.
Yeah, likewise. And we recognize your hearts over there, that you really care. You really care for the community. You care for every individual who passes by you. So thank you for your hard work and for coming out here today.
It's my pleasure. Yeah. Beautiful. I got the beautiful time of day, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got it's golden hour now.
Yeah, it is.